And we go back to the phones, Rush Limbaugh, and half my brain's hiding behind my back just to make it fair. This is Jerry in Santa Ynez, California. Welcome, sir. Great to have you.
Oh, thank you, Rush. Thank you so much for taking my call. I have been listening to you since 1989.
Wow, you're a lifer. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Rush, I just wanted to maybe put a little bit of clarification out there about due process and the warrantless seizure of weapons from somebody who's mentally ill. I think that could be done under a situation where you have probable cause. If you have somebody who's mentally ill, like Cruz, obviously mentally ill, and he demonstrates that he's a threat, which he clearly did, and certainly law enforcement should have acted on what happened before he had an opportunity to, sadly kill all of those students at the school. But if you have a mentally ill person and they're making threats, if you have probable cause, I think you could go in and seize the weapons, and then, just like the police arrest people every single day and incarcerate them. Under the Fourth Amendment, you can arrest somebody, you can throw them in jail and incarcerate them prior to getting a court order to do that. So I think you could do that as long as you had a court hearing, probably, within 48 hours.
Well, I understand that. And the real world, I know it's done on some occasions. We had a retired cop from New Jersey saying this already happens. It's any big deal out there. Why is everybody going so crazy? He was in total support of what the president was saying because he believes the president is still pure. And all the president meant was we have an obvious powder keg. Go take away the gun and deal with the niceties later, but save people's lives. He was, I think, reacting specifically to Nicholas Cruz and 66 warnings and other indications that were ignored. Now, they weren't ignored, by the way, because of the legal system. They were ignored because of an Obama administration thing called a promise program. But regardless, they were ignored. There were common sense indications that something could have been done, maybe even short of taking away the guy's weapons, commit him, put him in a 48-hour hold for observation or some such thing. But none of it was done. And in the immediate aftermath of this, with emotions running hot, President says, this was a slam dunk, just take the gun. The problem that people have is, yeah, fine and dandy this time, but now we have a precedent. And now we have a precedent where due process gets shoved to the back of the line. And what happens when we set this precedent and we get a genuine bad actor president or bad actor Department of Justice who then wants to start taking away a lot of people's guns under some premise that they say is legit and then get to the due process later? It's always what the precedent sets that has people upset.
Well, and I completely understand that, and you and I both know that President Trump doesn't always say things either in the best way they could be said or accurately, and that's because he's not a lawyer, he's not a politician, and God bless him for that. That being said, the point that I'm trying to make is, and just so you understand, I'm a lifetime member of the NRA. I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I agree with you 100% that the agenda of the Democrat Party is to eventually get rid of private gun ownership in this country, and I understand that. I just wanted to specifically address the issue of can you have a system in place where due process is complied with by having a pre-court order seizure of a gun from somebody who's dangerous. And I believe that you could do that. And I also recognize, Rush, that we live in a world where, not all judges are perfect.
Look, there are people that think I'm dangerous just because of what I say. No. Well, it may sound fun. There are people. You give the wrong people the power to define who's dangerous. This is the problem with it. If everybody used common sense in circumstances like this, then it would be a little easier. But we know how poisoned our political culture, hell, even our social culture has become. And if Look at the YouTube and Google. Well, same thing. They're already banning conservative video channels. They're banning conservatives. Now, I have some thoughts on this, by the way, but they're just doing it indiscriminately, claiming that it was an error, that they didn't know that it was happening, they're going to reinstate and so forth. But left to their own devices, this is what the left would do.
Well, Rush, you are absolutely right that, you know, some people would claim that what you say is dangerous, and in fact they have. As I told you, I've been listening to you for years and years and years, and I see you taken out of context on the news, and
right.
Remember those days when, you know, Clinton was claiming that you were responsible for...
There you go. Clinton blamed me for the Oklahoma City bombing.
I know, and so I understand all of that. And I understand, you know, we're in a very dangerous time in our country right now, you know, as you and most of your listeners recognize, because, you know, conservative thought and speech is being either labeled as dangerous or, you know, completely eliminated from websites, et cetera. So I
understand. Look, I appreciate your enunciation of your qualifications and your education level here to be agreeing with certain aspects of policy. I get all of that, and I think, in fact, that's what the president probably meant. It's the process or the snowball that's created by that has some people concerned. But anyway, I'm out of time, so I'll have to continue this with you in a little bit later. But I appreciate the call, and I appreciate you've been out there 29 years. Thank you.